The devil seems so ominous and scary and threatening to us simply because it represents that which is scary, ominous, and threatening within us. We all have aspects of ourselves that we would rather not look upon. Things that we hide that we'd rather ignore and pretend doesn't exist. Carl Jung called these things the shadow. And we can try to ignore them, we can try to repress them, but in repressing them, in the act of pushing them down, they only become more sinister, more vile, more diabolical and evil. By accepting them, by integrating them, we can actually have domain and control over these instincts that we label as evil. But there really is an existential question, and that is found especially in the Faustian bargain, or the ideology of Mephistopheles. Is it really evil? Most of the horrific things that we consider dark and malicious about us are really transpositions of instincts, biologically innate functions within us, the same things that we find in the animal kingdom. But animals don't commit mass genocide. Animals don't commit armed robbery. Rape isn't really a phenomenon we see regularly occurring in the animal kingdom. So the question is, why do we find this within humanity? And oddly enough, some of the most astonishing and outrageous atrocities ever committed by our species has been done by a religion which is against the devil, which preaches against evil, which advocates for righteousness and upstandingness, but which, in other words, tries to repress the shadow, which tries to shove these instincts down, which teaches us to overcome or override these innate aspects within us. And it is this religion which, oddly enough, has committed the most profound and outrageous and sinister atrocities of all humanity. And when we're looking at this establishment, we can see how the devil becomes so scary, because that establishment, which of course, if you haven't caught on, is the Christian religion, teaches us that these instincts that we feel, that we face on a day-to-day basis, are evil. They're of another world. They're of a demonology of sorts. They're from hell. They're from Lucifer. The seeds of doubt, which we have to have if we are to learn anything at all, if we are to progress psychologically, emotionally, intellectually, in any way, shape, or form, we have to have seeds of doubt which grow learning and intelligence, intellect, education. But the church represses these things, and anything which represents or symbolizes these things are deemed heretical. They're deemed blasphemous. They're deemed evil, and they're always associated with the evil one, which is the devil, Mephistopheles, Satan, Lucifer, Beelzebub, whatever you want to call him, by many different names. So the devil, in essence, represents anti-establishment to the church. And that is why the church is so horrified of the devil and has made such a fantastic enemy out of the devil, because the devil is the antithesis to the established order. The devil represents everything instinctual found within us, our shadows, so to speak. But not only does he represent our shadow, that less than ideal aspect of our psychology, but he represents the gray areas found in nature, where everything exists in a realm beyond good and evil, where everything exists in a sort of gray area. That's where the devil motif thrives. And that is why the church is so anti-devil motif, and it's fabricated this fictitious enemy, this adversary, so to speak, as a symbolic expression for everything, which is against or a challenge to their established order. In essence, whenever we're looking at a Faustian bargain, or a deal with the devil, a contract with the devil, what we're seeing is a deal with our shadow selves, a deal with the primordial innate instincts within us, a deal with natural and elemental forces, a deal with everything that is anti-establishment. What we're essentially seeing is a deal with chaos, a deal with all that is unknown, all that is rather unruly, so to speak. That is what a deal with the devil represents, and that is dangerous to a degree, we have to admit. But as sinister as it's been painted to us all of our lives, that's a question that only the real rendering and reading of Faust can actually answer to us. But the reality is that on a day-to-day basis, we are all confronted with making a deal with the devil. And every time we do anything in life, essentially, we're making a deal, a pact, with Mephistopheles, the devil. Yet there is an essential representation of the devil's deal, which is also profound and really can be solidified and verified by Christian doctrines and teachings. Even a broken clock is right twice a day, so we have to give the devil his dues and give Christianity a little bit of credit here and there, because it has earned a little bit of credit here and there. But essentially what the deal with the devil also represents, aside from dealing with our own instincts and the chaos of the unknown, is the reality of human nearsightedness, trading temporary satisfaction for potentially long-term suffering. And that is something, again, that we all face on a day-to-day basis. And being that we are not profound intellects, all of us as a species, in other words, that can tell what's going to come after the next step, that each step will lead us to somewhere else, we're not understanding of what each step actually means. So a lot of times we're so concerned with the immediate step that we do not think beyond that step. We don't think to the next step. We're so functionally factoring in A that we forget to factor in B or C or D. And when we get to D or E or F or G, we're only focused on that immediate aspect, and we do not think of the next step. That is just a fundamental flaw of the human species. It's not a jab or a jest at anyone in particular. We all fail in this way at some point, shape, or form. Sometimes it might be through alcoholism, sometimes it's drug abuse, sometimes it's greed. Most of the time it's ego. We get so bound up and caught up with our own feeding of the ego, making ourselves feel righteous and justified and important and verified, that we forget what we're actually sacrificing to achieve that. We forget that we are sacrificing friendships to fight and to prove our self-worth, to show ourselves as bigger, better, badder than what we actually are. We're sacrificing character traits of us, aspects of our personality which we love, so that we can fit into an image that we think that the world would like to see out of us, and makes us feel more entitled and empowered, more beautiful, intelligent, stronger, wiser, richer, whatever. All of these aspects are nearsighted aspects. They are deals with the devil. And essentially it just shows a lack of foresight, a lack of planning ahead or thinking ahead. But these are realities that we face all the time. Sacrificing long-term treasure for immediate satisfaction. Ultimately, though, this is a day-to-day reality. This is something that we deal with from the moment we wake up to the moment we go to sleep. Everything costs us in some way, shape, or form. Everything has a side effect. You can't take a pill to lose weight without having side effects. Side effects may include such and such. So what you're doing is you're trading a little bit of overweight for lack of sleep, or high blood pressure, or everyday nausea, or extreme digestional issues. So you're always trading one problem for another. Everything costs. Everything essentially is a deal with the devil. Look at the modern luxuries of this modern world. We can flip on the TV and see anything we want. We have so many streaming services. We can watch movies from the comfort of our own couch without ever having to go out in the snow or the rain or the heat of summer or anything to actually see a movie anymore. We don't have to sit amongst other people. We don't have to accept the popcorn there. But in a way, it's deprived us of access to the world at large. We sit at our home, we watch everything on our own TVs and through these various streaming services, but it's sabotaged the economic world of movies and TV, and it's ruined the industry of movie theaters, and it's destroyed essentially an aspect that was once nostalgic. And now we look at going to the movies or going to rent a movie at Blockbuster as a form of nostalgia. And in essence, we kind of yearn for that type of antiquity, that obsolete factor that most people don't even remember today. But these luxuries cost us. We now yearn for something that we wanted to get rid of so that we could be a little bit more lazy, a little bit more comfortable. We now have access to anybody at any given time. Previously, if we wanted to talk to somebody, we had to call them up on a landline. If their landline was busy, we'd have to wait till later. If they weren't home, we'd have to wait till later. If somebody wanted to get a hold of us, they'd have to wait for us to get home to get a hold of us, or they'd have to call us at the library or the bookstore or the coffee shop. Now we have our cell phones in our pocket all the time. We're always in contact with somebody. Not to mention the fact that before that we had to write letters. Before that there was so many elements factored in, but now it's so easy. We're always in touch with everybody. We're always in contact. But in this way, we never have peace. We never have quiet time. We never have solitude. We never have alone time. So this luxury of being able to just grab our phone out of our pocket, make a phone call, send a text, it's cost us peace. It's cost us solitude. It's cost us a meditative state of mind, which now we have to jump through serious psychological hoops to even achieve. So fundamentally, all these luxuries cost us something more significant than what we ever wish to admit. The World Wide Web is another fantastic instance of the devil's bargain. It's a fantastic tool. It is a very luxurious tool. I use it every day. You use it every day. We're watching this video. I'm conveying this video through the aspect of technology, but it's also cost us significantly because it's also deprived us of privacy. It's negated the solitude of life, and it's caused extreme social problems. It's caused outstanding and absolutely horrifying identity crisis within a lot of people, old and young, men and women. It's led to a fact that there are no jobs for the amount of people that we have because technology is replacing manpower. And it's also deprived us of art because anybody can get on and do AI art anymore, but this doesn't actually make us artists, and it's deprived us of a human element. Technology is replacing humanity. So it's luxurious, yeah, absolutely. It's easy. It's allowed us to be a little bit more lazy, which is ultimately an evolutionary process that we're yearning for. That is the fundamentals of evolution, is trying to make things a little bit easier, trying to make things a little bit less flawed so that we can ultimately be a little bit more lazy, put forth a little bit less effort. But in that, we have essentially cost ourselves a very human aspect. Then let's not even forget to mention the aspects of materialism, because materialism costs us more than what we ever want to realize. Yeah, we have the new purse, the $2,000 Louis Vuitton, whatever. But what does it cost us? It's cost us X amount of time out of our lives. If we've sacrificed the potential of making memories with our children, with our wives, with our grandparents, with our cousins, with our brothers, with our sisters, to go work at a job so that we can afford something useless, something to showboat, something that's not going to hold any value, something that you're going to throw away at some point. So materialism costs us more than just the dollar sign. It costs us more than just X amount of dollars an hour or day to attain this thing. It costs us fundamentals of the human existence. It costs us beautiful things which money cannot buy, and at the end of your life, the money you've spent on a $2,000 pair of shoes or a $500 t-shirt or a $1 million car or whatever, that has cost us something dearly, that you would pay all of that money back tenfold to get another minute of your life. So you make $60 an hour. Would you give $60 an hour to extend your life by the hour when you're on your deathbed? Most certainly. But we don't factor in those devil's bargains, those deals with the devil, while we're signing the contract. We're signing our life away, hour by hour, day by day, throwing it away for materialism, destroying the world, destroying our own lives, destroying the lives of people around us, destroying elements that make human life worth living for a little bit of cheap materialism that we pay dearly for in more ways than one.
Much like our day-to-day lives, the world of entertainment is absolutely riddled and littered with ideas, motifs, and themes of the Faustian bargain, the deal with the devil, where one trades one's soul, one's life, one's integrity for 15 minutes of wealth, riches, fame, and all the glory that comes with it. One of the most famous Faustian bargains is that of Robert Johnson, an African-American blues player who is now called the father of rock and roll, and who was a significant influence on all modern-day recording styles. Robert Johnson seemingly came out of nowhere. Nobody knew his name, nobody knew his backstory. He did not have a long time to build up a reputation for himself, but when he came onto the scene, he revolutionized everything, and he became a common household name. And today, as far as musicology goes and music history is concerned, he is one of the most fundamental characters in all music history. But oddly enough, his entire recording career only lasted 7 months. After these 7 months were over, Robert Johnson died at the age of 27, being the first one to join the 27 Club. The events around Johnson's death are absolutely mysterious. There was never an official cause of death, and many people nowadays speculate that it might have been syphilis which contributed to his death. Yet oral traditions have held for over 30 years that a jealous husband was to blame for the death of Robert Johnson. Yet there are also those who claim that it was the devil himself that came out of nowhere and reclaimed the soul that was rightfully due to him, because it was always held that Robert Johnson had made a deal with the devil, a fact that he seemed to lean into and play upon in his own music, and never once seemed to deny any allegations that he sold his soul to the devil for a profound musical ability. Yet we have to admit this is all superstitious. This is all hypothetical fairy tale stuff. This is not the stuff of real life. These are not real psychological factors. What we can say with absolute certainty, though, is that Robert Johnson leaned into his life of the rock star with alcohol, drug abuse, and of course, unbridled sexuality, all of which certainly led to his early demise. And instead of living a good, long life and having a healthy, steady career, he made a very sudden splash, a quick name for himself, and then he was gone forever. So the question we may ask is, did Robert Johnson meet some dapper-dressed gentleman with a pointy mustache, perhaps holding a pitchfork behind his back, and sign a contract to this said gentleman in his own blood? Probably not, but there can be absolutely no denying the fact that Robert Johnson most certainly lived the cliche of the Faustian bargain, trading everything that we could all possess in life for immediate satisfaction and for temporal relief. Beyond a shadow of a doubt, he most certainly signed his soul away, forfeited his life, and therefore is the cliche stereotype of a deal with the devil. Yet to think in any way, shape, or form that the Faustian bargain or devil's contract is limited to the world of sex, drugs, and rock and roll, fame, and riches is an absolute fallacy. The reality is it extends to all spheres of life, including religion, including art, including classical literature, and even science. One of the most stereotypical and well-known stories where the Faustian bargain is found in science is the development of the nuclear weapon, led by Robert Oppenheimer. Oppenheimer certainly gained a lot of glory and a lot of notoriety from his role being played in the development of the nuclear weapon, but he ended his life in an absolute state of decay. He was psychologically crippled by the fear of what he had created, And furthermore, he found himself in an absolute diabolical situation where there were forces of deception and propaganda throwing him to and fro, shredding him to absolute tatters. Yes, he gained notoriety. Yes, he goes down in the history books. Yes, he is considered one of the greatest minds that have ever lived. But at what cost? Certainly the cost of millions of lives, which weighed on him throughout his entire life. And he ended up crippling his internal biology with alcoholism, all in an attempt to numb the pain of the blood that was on his hands. Almost immediately after the first nuclear weapon was successfully deployed, Oppenheimer was quoted as saying, "I have become the destroyer of worlds, the bringer of death," showing just how dramatically he felt about the monster which he had aided in creating. Then later, another director of the Los Alamos nuclear facility had actually written an article called The Faustian Bargain, which directly refers to the cost and rewards that we see playing out in the nuclear atmosphere. The fact that, yes, a nation can gain a little bit of security and a little bit of peace of mind knowing that they have nuclear capabilities, but when all major countries in the world have nuclear capacity, what are we really gaining? We're simply playing a game of dice, a game of chance in which nobody wins. We have enough nuclear weapons on this planet at the moment to destroy the planet 30 times over again. We could destroy multiple planets with the nuclear capacity that we have on this one singular planet. So what have we really gained? A little bit of peace of mind, a fallacy of security, at the reality that we could all possibly die from the technology which we have advocated for. Yet science, religion, sex, drugs, rock and roll, it might seem also unfamiliar to us, but the reality is we all find ourselves in the ultimate Faustian age, where we are faced with ecological decay, where we have to take down thousands upon thousands upon thousands of trees every single day just to sustain these minor luxuries which we have become dependent on. Nay, I might even say that we have become slaves to. We are dependent on technology, which is ultimately leading to our psychological decay and our cultural collapse. We now live in a civilization which flies the flag of freedom, but in all actuality only condones violence, intolerance, insufferability of other people's thoughts, opinions, and emotions. We live in an industrial age which has to pump out non-stop, incessant food sources for us, which has to pump out the materialism that we need, all of which leads to an ecological decay, a moral and psychological decay. So in the end, when we ask ourselves, why does the Faustian bargain, the deal with the devil's contract, have so much familiarity to us, seem so connectable to us? Why can we relate to it on such a deep level, and why is it so relevant to our world? It's because it is, and it does. In short, it's because we live the Faustian bargain every day of our life. We connect to it because we understand it. We have to face its dilemmas from the moment we wake up till the moment we go to sleep. And every significant part of our life, every significant feat that we have to face is ultimately going to be a deal with the devil.